It's about time I'm late, all right? I've been far, far too consistent with being on time. It's only 2 minutes, everyone. Welcome to the 2023 post-race Chinwag Mexican Grand Prix, Mexico City Grand Prix edition, should I say. Roll intro with no audio to blow your eardrums off this time. I apologise for that last week, everyone. Welcome, everyone. How are we all doing? Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for sticking around for 2 minutes while I was sorting out the graphics, right? Got there in the end. I need to get a haircut after this, man. I could not be asked to do my hair today. I need a trim. I'm long overdue a trim. Welcome, Jaden, Alexis, Vas, Antonio, Account, Julia, Matsunochi, Vedant, Scotty, Adrian, Mark, Max, Callum, Dorian, Cone, Lolly, Dre, Rafe, James, Tim, Vincent, Max, Freedog, Alexis, Daniel, Squibsley, Abe, Salmon, Edward, Rue, Henry, Ben, Joan, Peaks, Lucas, Lumberjack, Amy, Zenith, and Jordan. Thank you all for coming. If you want to potentially have your name read out at the start, then check out these streams live on YouTube. Okay, it's my primary home is YouTube, but this is of course also available on audio only. Now, I've just acknowledged that. Oh, how am I going to do this? So I've got overlays prepared for this stream, but I've just realised I think I added all the overlays, but I forgot to hide one of the overlays. How am I going to do this? Because I don't want to spoil. I'm gonna have to think how I don't spoil the overlay, because I forgot to hide all of the top overlays. So basically, when we go to the next overlay, you're immediately going to see your bangers and clangers. It's far too early for that, okay? So I'm going to have a little think as to how I'm going to get around that. But in the meantime, chat, can we please get a rating out of 10 for the 2023 Mexico Grand Prix? 2 races in one, kind of, wasn't it? We're almost split exactly down the middle. Give me some numbers, live chat, and then I will use those numbers to put together a poll. Race rating out of 10. And I'll tell you what, I mean, this race was definitely saved by Kevin Magnussen's left rear tyre deciding to, do all rear wheel steering and putting him into the wall. Big scary shunt. Fortunately, he was okay, but yeah, that was a sketchy one. Right, okay, so 4 or lower, I think is the lower end here. A 5, a 6, or a 7, or higher. Race rating out of 10. Poll is live. Now, obviously, by Mexico standards, okay, it was pretty good. I mean, last year was an absolute bore fest. This was obviously helped. You had Lando with pace moving through the field. You had Yuki with pace moving through the field. You had some tyre offset as well, which was good to see. That did certainly help. And obviously we had storylines, didn't we? We had some interesting storylines. Daniel Ricciardo being one of them, of course. Sergio Perez being another. And obviously that all came to a head at the start, didn't it? Which we will get into. Don't you worry. So, race rating out of 10. Come on, there's 715 of you here and 375 of you voted. Come on, people. Get your votes in. No, to be fair, it's established itself. Okay, 4% of you have given it a 4 or lower. 18% of you are giving it a 5. 44% have given it a 6. And 34% have given it a... Oh God, I'm gonna have to end up spoiling bangers and clangers, which is an absolute stinker. Oh, actually, no. Okay, there's one way I could potentially save this. But yeah, you're giving it a 6. I'd maybe just say just over a 6. It's averaging just over a 6. Right. First, we're gonna go to screen share, and I'm gonna take this Tommo pink, and I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna try as soon as I click overlays, to copy it, to paste it over the top, right? If you're listening audio only, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. And I've got a suspected spam call as well. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take the spam. I'm not going to take the suspected spam call, just because, in case it isn't spam. That would be very awkward. Take that live on stream. Right, yeah, so I'm going to copy this layer, and I'm going to try and paste it. Ready? Oh my God, he's done it. He's done it. Did you see it? Did you see it? Did you see the overlay? Did anyone see the overlay? I don't think you did. You know what? I think I've absolutely nailed it, people. I think I've absolutely nailed it. Bosh. Have some of that. No, you didn't. Come on. Come on. We take those, people. We take those. My incompetence, all right, is... Look, the stream would have been delayed about 10 seconds more if I'd... You know, what would you rather, okay? Me waste about 30 seconds of this stream talking about it, or... Nah, you didn't see it. You didn't see it, Juvenile. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Right, okay. Yeah, 42% of you have given this a 6 out of 10. Well, for me, and it's one of them again, when it's 2 races, and it would have almost certainly been probably like a 3, maybe a 4, probably more like a 3, if it wasn't for that red flag. I've given it a 6 as well. So I've aligned with the popular vote. And thank you, Racing Clips, for the 499, by the way. I wonder what an IndyCar race would look like at that track. You know what? The Formula E... And look, I'm a known Formula E skeptic. Let's just say that. Let's say skeptic, all right? And I think it's better now than it ever has been. And it's good around this track. Formula E is very good around Mexico. And again, they're not downforce cars, are they, Formula E? Those wings are doing anything but pushing the car into the tarmac. So, yeah, I think for different series, I think for IndyCar, have they ever raced around here in IndyCar? I don't think they have. So that would be interesting to see, though. I'd like that. Obviously, again, IndyCars are less aero reliant. They are more kind of mechanical grip, aren't they? Much more mechanical grip than F1. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for me. There's moments, for sure, memorable moments. At the end of the day, Max was incredibly dominant at the front. And it took, again, that tyre offset for Lando, a red flag that comes out of a mechanical failure for Magnussen. Very fortunate from a entertainment point of view that, first of all, K-Mag was okay. And secondly, that happened to kind of spice the race up. Obviously not good for Haas or K-Mag at all, but... I mean, let's be honest, I don't think he was running anywhere near the points anyway. So, yeah, tough one. Tough one, but all in all, I enjoyed it, actually. The stream on Last Lap that we did, subscription, link down in the description below if you want to check that out, was actually really good. We had a good time. We had a good time. Me, Niran, Mahad, and Pete. But yes, 6 out of 10 for me is what I give the 2023 Mexico City Grand Prix. And the results are as follows. Max Verstappen wins the 16th race, 16th win of the season. The most ever in a season. Obviously, there's more races than ever. So you take that with a pinch of salt in terms of statistically, but, a percentage win rate as well. Almost certainly he's going to be... In terms of... Do we know, chat, where Max is right now in terms of, if he doesn't win any more races, where that would put him in all-time percentage wins? I'm actually not sure. I know he's already right up there, but I mean, he could win 19, just below 75% Ascari. Yeah, and I think Ascari was back in they barely had any races, didn't they? So 17 wins would be 77.5%. Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't put it past Max winning 19. He can win 19 this year, and that would be one hell of a bar to set, right? In a sport that's, these regulations are meant to be designed to allow the field to close up. And again, you look at the rest. You look at the other 9 teams, and all right, yeah, you could say maybe not Checo, but the other 9 teams, there's a fight going on there somewhat, right? And we saw big moves down the bottom as well. If you saw my video last week about the importance of the Constructors' battle towards the back, there were some big moves made yesterday. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton takes fastest lap from P2 as well. Very good drive. Very good drive from Lewis. Charles Leclerc rounds out the podium, somehow manages to survive that lap 1 contact. His car's still intact. And with no front wing end plate as well, was gapping Sainz yesterday. Very good drive from Charles Leclerc. Very... so how much was it a good drive from Leclerc or just a poor... Sainz wasn't at the races, you know what I mean? Norris from So Norris was P18 because Sargeant and Tsunoda had their penalties. He went from P18 to like P7 and then on the restart went down to P14 because they pitted him just before the restart. So that put him to P10. Then he had a bad start after a red flag. That put him to P14. And then he recovered to P5. Oh, sorry, 17. My bad. Crazy. Oh, yeah, Lance touched from the pits. Of course he did. Crazy race from Norris. Russell, a mile off Hamilton, which is a bit awkward. Ricciardo, P7. Held on in the end and could have been more if it wasn't for that red flag. He was arguably the biggest loser from that red flag, was Daniel Ricciardo. Piastri 8, 9 Albon points again. It's almost like that's 3 point scoring finishes in a row for Alex Albon, and I kind of feel a bit disappointed that it wasn't more, just given the pace that he was showing in practice. You got to think, I'm sure Norris fans feel the same, right? P5, considering everything, you got to take it, but there'd always be, what if? You know what I mean, I feel like almost a bit like that. If they'd have sorted their qualifying out, and he hadn't got that track limits, which, I mean, Alex wasn't very happy about that track limits on Saturday. What could have been? Thank you, Adonis, for the 499. 20% less aero for thin air, actually. Mixed the field pretty well. Could this be a cool target for future regulations? I enjoyed Mexico spec racing. I'm assuming, Adonis, you don't mean we reduce the thickness of the air around the world. No, 20% less aero. Look, they've simplified the aero on these cars relative to pre these regulations, of course. But then again, it's not so much less aero, it's just the aero's moved to under the car instead of outside of the car. I think there was a lot of things that played a factor. I mean, again, the DRS was less effective. Some cars felt that pain more than others as well. I know Ocon was saying, when he had... I mean, maybe this was just him moaning because he couldn't get past Hulkenberg for ages. But Ocon was saying that, when he opened the DRS, it barely made any difference. Yet when Max was coming through the field, he was doing turn 1 overtakes when he was on those hard tyres. He was making that move before the corner, But that Red Bull was so efficient and it's just so good in a straight line. The Honda engines are probably pretty good around here as well. When the AlphaTauri is going like the clappers and Max is winning comfortably, you've got to say possibly there's a link, there's a connection there. But yeah, and then Ocon getting that final point on the bald. Tsunoda recovered to P12 after his contact with Piastri, which we will get into, which did break my heart because a lot. I've got a lot of love for Yuki. And Kiefer, right? You bring up my predictions, right? If you anyone here for the pre-race predictions, there were 2 big ones. Race winner, Checo Perez. As you can see from this graph here, he immediately ended his race. But banger drive, Daniel Ricciardo. He's got to be up there, isn't he? He's got to be up there. And yeah, the Alfa Romeos as well. Bring back to Alfa Romeo once again. Both into Q3. P14, 15 on the day. The lowest finishing cars because Sargeant had to put it in for a fuel pump issue literally just before crossing the line, which that sucks, man. That sucks for him, man. That is so harsh. You know what, lady? I almost did. Well, I felt like doing the same. I was doing last lap, so obviously I couldn't turn off, but I was... what could have been for Yuki, man. And that could be big in the constructors again, which we'll get onto that now, I suppose, won't we? Driver standings, first of all. Moves here, so Sainz jumps Alonso. Same number of points, but better, higher finishing position. Obviously, the win in Singapore puts Sainz ahead of Alonso, both on 183 points. Perez to Hamilton, that gap is now 20 points. If Lewis hadn't got disqualified, it would be 1 point. Because it was 19 points, the gap, before that disqualification. It would be 1 point if it wasn't for that disqualification. So yeah, I mean, Lewis has put himself right back in that hunt for P2. Kind of thought that was over, but not so much. Norris as well. Norris is only 14 points off of P4. 14 points. That's crazy. That is crazy. Would Lewis be ahead by 1? Or would he be behind by 1? I think he'd be behind by 1, I think. Because Lewis the gap would have been 19. The gap's now 20. Whatever, I don't know. Either equal. Oh yeah, the fastest lap as well. Yeah, true. I don't know. Either way, they would be very, very close. Russell 151. That gap to Lewis is what, 769? Nice. Ocon gets a point, but doesn't change any standing-wise. Constructor standing-wise? Doesn't change anything for Alpine, of course. They're in that uncanny valley in the middle of nowhere. But Ricciardo jumps up from P last. He was 22nd. He's gained 5 positions in one go. 6 points, Daniel Ricciardo. Damn. Ahead of Joe, even though same number of points, but ahead of Joe on best finishing position. Well done, Daniel Ricciardo. What a race. But yeah, Constructors is the slightly more interesting thing to look at. Again, Mercedes grew that gap to Ferrari by 1 point. McLaren increasing that gap to Aston Martin. McLaren catching Ferrari and Mercedes, I don't think is going to happen. But listen, the gaps. I mean, Aston Martin both out the points, so obviously McLaren can easily gap them. They're already ahead before this race anyway. And now Aston Martin are absolutely nowhere, which we will get onto. More interesting battle though, obviously Williams 28 points now, but AlphaTauri jump from P10 to P8, ahead of Alfa Romeo on best finishing position, both on 16 points, and it's not looking good for Haas. I mean, look, in my video last week, I predicted the bottom four would be Williams, AlphaTauri, Haas, Alfa Romeo. Haas still haven't worked out their tyres. Hulkenberg was holding on for dear life, bless him, for as long as he could. But yeah, I think this is where it finishes. If anything, and look, maybe this track played to AlphaTauri's strengths. Obviously, Interlagos is at altitude, not to the extent of Mexico, right? But I'm pretty sure. Let me check, actually. Interlagos altitude. I'm sure it is. It's 700 meters above sea level. And Mexico City is... Oh, okay. Oh, wow, okay. So Mexico City is 2,250 meters above sea level. Interlagos is only 700 meters above sea level, which is something, but it's not. Yeah, it's not going to make as much of an impact. We'll see, because AlphaTauri is good through slow speed, jacking up the ride height a bit as well. That works. Las Vegas is 610 above, really. Interesting, Scott. Interesting. Yeah, it still will make a difference to an extent, I'm sure, right? But probably not as much. So yeah, lots to fight for in the Constructors. And yes, I have seen all the rumours, squibbles. We will get on to squibbies, sorry. I will cover these rumours. There's been rumours milling about, right? If you haven't been keeping your eye on the Twitter, then do so. Thank you, Joel, by the way, for the €5. Tommo, we need your reaction to the Stroll post-quali/race interviews. Well, Joel, I did see him post-quali, and he was very concise. He was very Kimmy. He wasn't angry. He wasn't upset like he was whatever the race was when he fully threw his toys at the pram. But he was super concise. Which, look, I mean, okay. I mean, as long as you're not like, shoving your PT or whatever, like, fair enough. Like, but he was very Kimmy. He wasn't like emotion. He was emotionless almost. He was just like, yeah. I mean, what's he got to say, really? Surf Sauce, you got kicked from Twitter. I mean, that takes some That takes some effort, mate. That takes some effort. He was a little snappy. Yeah, Clorox, I'll give you that. He wasn't really, was he? Nah, I don't think so. He was kind of on the edge. Acts like Kimmy, but drives like... Well, listen, I mean, if the rumours are to be believed, then there could be 2 seats opening up at Aston Martin fairly soon. We'll get onto it. We'll get onto the rumours, all right? Albert and Will playing with us. But there you go. Right. Bangers and clangers time. Starting, of course, with mine. Who was my bangingest drive from the 2023 Mexico City Grand Prix? Well, there are a number of names. Of course, Max Verstappen wins the race. 2 restarts as well. Leading out of turn 1 after both restarts. Very impressive drive. Lewis Hamilton recovering from P6 qualification through to P2. If he hadn't he spent a lot of this race stuck behind a Ferrari, didn't he? So you got to think what could have been. Norris as well, making his move through from the back. A recovery drive. Yes, he was certainly at fault for messing up his lap in Q1. McLaren didn't help him out that much. They gave him like 1 shot, but there you go. And Ricciardo, of course, unreal in qualifying and held on very well. Almost got George Russell at the end. And we'll get on to that cutaway, because that cutaway on the final lap, when they cut away, I'm going to have to find my reaction. Actually, you know what? No, when we get onto that, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we get onto Ricciardo, right? Because it was just so bad. It was so bad. I might actually have to get my... Because obviously I was watching on the last lap live, right? So my reaction, there are receipts on YouTube of our reaction. It was absolutely appalling. But anyway, my bangingest drive from the 2023 Mexico City Grand Prix, I've given it to Max Verstappen. I think, especially on Sunday, especially given managing the engine temps, managing the brake temps, all that, 2 restarts as well, this was one of Max's most impressive drives, right? That restart, that second restart, nobody starts P1 in Mexico and comfortably leads into turn 1. Doesn't happen. Yet he could pit. Max could pit. He did pit before the red flag came out and was still ahead. And then the race restarted and he stayed P1. Like, I was like, this is it. Lewis is on the mediums, Max is on the hards. Lewis is P3. That's the perfect place to start. Come on. No, I'm sorry. Sometimes you have to just give credit and credence where it is, right? There were some great drives, but no drive was better than Max Verstappen's yesterday. Not for me. Banger. Absolute banger. Thank you, Azar, by the way. What if Ricciardo wins the World Drivers' Championship in 2024? It's a massively left field, but quite certainly not impossible, especially if he gets... Well, I mean, Azar, I'm assuming that assumes he does get the Red Bull seat in 2024. What if... it would be a vibe, wouldn't it, if Ricciardo won the championship in 2024? But I don't think that's going to happen. Not with Max Verstappen in the other Red Bull anyway, if you are assuming that Ricciardo gets in the Red Bull, because Max Verstappen is just driving like faultless. Yeah, you can argue on Saturday. You know, one lap pace isn't Red Bull's wheelhouse. You know what I mean? That's not their be all and end all. But Max just absolutely delivered that race. Could not have done any more. Unreal job. So that's my banger drive. But what about yours? 2,037 of you voted. I put the poll out last night. Thank you for voting on Twitter or YouTube community. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to make sure you can see the community posts, or follow me at Tommo F1, TWOMMO, because we only take W's on Twitter. That's because it's Twitter, Tommo. But then they changed it to... I'm not even going to... It's just Twitter, isn't it? It's just Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter. 2,037 of you voted, and your banger drive is Lando. No wins. Look, we can forgive the slander name Lando, all right? He don't mind it. 48% of you voted Lando Norris for banger drive. 36% of you voted for Daniel Ricciardo. 11% Lewis Hamilton. And 2% of you, Max Verstappen. Two. What? Come on. That is one of Max's most complete drives. Yes, he wasn't scrapping for positions going through because he was so clear. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, Lando, Daniel, Lewis and Max all had fantastic drives. You know, the context, you can pick any one of them. I think it's like impossible, isn't it? It's impossible to compare Lando's drive to Max's drive because they were so different. Lando was at the back moving through. Max was towards the front, taking the race by the scruff of the neck and just dominating it, and an extra pit stop again before the red flag. Like, come on. But Lando was, I can see what, and typically those drives do get more rewarded in the fan votes, don't they? Typically we see when someone has a bit of a stinker qualifying but moves through the field, they tend to get the fan vote, particularly on the on Sky Sports they have the little poll that they do, and yeah, typically those drives are well rewarded. And I'll tell you what, I did almost give it to Lando because two of those overtakes, that overtake on George, the cutback, switchback, and that overtake on Ricciardo around the outside. Whew. I remember seeing someone tweet a while back, Mad reminded me of it on the stream, that I've never seen Lando make an overtake. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Like, I'm sorry, right? I've said this once before. I remember on stream once before. I said, like, any of you who still think Lando's overrated need to, like, have a serious word with yourself. And a performance like yesterday, right? Yes, granted, the criticism is granted. He did make a mistake in qualifying. He owned up to that. He's very self-critical with Lando, right? He took that on the chin. But in the race, ahead of Piastri as well, by the way, like comfortably quicker, did a way better job on the tyres. Come on. Hamilton overtake on the grass was better, just saying. Well, game riot. It was very good. It was very, to be, especially with when it kicks up a bit of like dust and grass at the back. That was very good. Charles gave it one of them, didn't he? After he was enjoying it, and just gave him enough space. That was clean, fair racing. It's not like what Charles did to Lewis in Monza 2019, because that was naughty. But that one was fair. All's fair in love and war, right? But yeah, some really good, strong drives yesterday. But what about the clangers? Who had the clangingest drive of all? Okay, because it really depends on what you define clanger, right? Okay, but I'm saying what the driver kind of had within their control. And there's two names popping up a lot. But I've got to give it to Checo. We didn't talk, didn't we, after qualifying? We have not spoken since qualifying, where Sergio Perez was out-qualified by Daniel Ricciardo. Now, is it true that Perez was only a tenth and a half off of Verstappen, which is the closest gap it's been for a hot minute? Yes, that is true. That is very true. But in all three qualifying sessions, by the way, right? Q1, Q2, Q3. I actually, hang on, let me find the tweet, because I went through and I crunched the old numbers, right? In terms of the gaps in each session. Here it is, right? Let's get screen share up. Let's get window capture. Let's have a look at this. There we go. Right, so looking at all three Qs, Q1, Q2, Q3, the Verstappen, Ricciardo, Perez gaps were as follows. So you had Verstappen was quarter of a second clear of Ricciardo in Q1 and just under half a second clear of Perez in Q1. In Q2, Ricciardo was within a tenth of Verstappen. Perez was half a second behind Verstappen. And in Q3, that's where it closed up. And Max had a bad Q3. I mean, I would certainly argue you are correct there, Casper. I think he had some kind of issue of some kind, or just didn't get the car, the tyres into the right window, whatever, right? There's a lot of potential reasons why Max didn't exude the same dominance that in Q3 like he'd, shown pretty much all weekend. But yeah, that's pretty. The fact Ricciardo went quicker than Perez in all three Q3s by a good 2 tenths quicker in Q1, 4 tenths quicker in Q2, and then half a tenth in Q3. Damn, that's a lot of damage. And then obviously turn 1, 3 wide, Checo. He needs to give more space. He needs to expect, he's coming from behind. He can see where Max is already, right? He knows Max has gone to the right of Charles. He knows Charles is there. What? I don't get it. Just cut the corner and just carry on. You can't win look, Mexico is one of them tracks where you could argue you can win the race at turn 1, right? More so than a lot of other tracks. Yeah, Monaco's similar, right? If you can get a move done early doors, you're eating good for the rest of the race, right? But still, even with that, and I said afterwards, he wanted to go for the win and he wanted to go full send, blah, 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 right? And I get that, right? Home Grand Prix. And you know what? When he said that, right? I've seen post-race Checo say this. He wanted to go for the race win, Home Grand Prix. Does that not, and maybe this is just my mind running away with me, but does that not potentially imply that he's on his way out? He knows that this may have been his last ever Mexico Grand Prix. For him to attack that corner in that way, does that not potentially, I don't know. That's what came to mind. As soon as he said that, for me, that's what came to mind. But look, regardless, it was a stinky stinker. It was a stinky stinker from Checo Perez. And it was more on him than anyone. Let's be real. Max is on the inside, perfectly fine. Charles is in the middle. It's more on Checo than anyone else. Desperation move, exactly, Helder. It was a move in desperation that didn't need to be done in desperation, So, look, I don't know. It's messy. It's sad that once again, this feels like the most, since I started doing YouTube Formula One stuff, right? Middle of 2019. And obviously we've had, my first video was when Albon replaced Gasly. And then obviously the rest of that year was good from an Albon point of view. 2020 was tough, right? But it feels like this sustained topic of discussion around Sergio Perez and his future, I'm just like, it is getting to the stage. It's like, is this just going to be all we're talking about next season as well? Because I don't see things turning around. I don't know. Does anyone in chat think that this is a one-off season, one-off bad season for Checo, and next year he'll be much better? Does anyone believe that? Because I'm running out of. I'm running out of excuse. I'm seeing it's a sea of no's. It's a sea of no's, and we're just going to be in this position again next year. And the thought of that is pretty uninspiring. I think obviously last year Checo did do a better job relative to Max for sure, but also Max wasn't as at home at one with this Red Bull. The Red Bull struggled early season with reliability. You know, now that Max has really found his groove with this Red Bull, that isn't going to fundamentally change next year, you know, now that he's found, it's going to be more of the same, isn't it? Thank you, Will.i.am, for the $2. Nope. Jamie, question is, does he keep the 24 seat? We'll get onto that, Jamie. We will get onto that, my friend. Chromatic Sound as well. Thank you for 499. Checo is more than washed. He's dry cleaned. Look, I can understand, right? And I've got sympathy for Checo after that, right? That's his home Grand Prix. That's obviously something that means a huge amount to him. He is like, I think that Checo is more fanatically received in Mexico than Max is in the Netherlands. Like, it's insane. It's insane. It's close, don't get me wrong, but it's... And so that obviously means so much to him. He's such a role model, and he knows the responsibility he has, he feels to himself, to deliver on home soil. And for it to end so quickly, I feel for him. Of course I feel for him. You have to feel for him on a human level, but he took the risk. He took the risk and he paid the price. And it's the risk of a man that maybe knows his future at a top team is limited. That's all I'm saying. Look, I've been saying this consistently. I think as soon as Ricciardo was back into the family at Red Bull Racing, I think that intent was made very clear. It just depends what his contract is. We just don't know. We just don't know what Checo's contract is. But anyway, that's my clanger. And no surprise, your clanger is also Sergio Perez, 64% of the vote. Tsunoda and Alonso, both 11%. Exactly the same number of votes, actually, you gave Tsunoda and Alonso. Alonso definitely, spun in qualifying, didn't he? Him and Lance had different spec cars, and they were both absolutely nowhere. An absolute howler. And then Russell, 5%, which is, again, that gap to Lewis. Fair enough, Thank you, Thomas. Great name for the 5 Aussie. Max broke Checo, Imo. He's a talented driver, but Max is a once-in-a-generational talent. Yeah. I think since Baku. Since after Baku. Since Miami, man. Yeah. Look, talent is only... I'm sure many of us, right, of going through life. I remember when I used to play 5-a-side, and there were these 2 lads I used to play with. One ended up playing for Doncaster Rovers. He played for Doncaster at the time, actually. This was back when I was 17, and he was like in his mid-20s. And his mate... So basically, his mate was a regular, and then this guy who played for Doncaster came a few times, just out of season, just to keep fit. And the guy who was that we knew, so the Doncaster Rover player's mate, was technically the better player, but didn't have the mentality. He would throw his toys out the pram all the time. He didn't have the discipline. And the other fella, he wasn't technically as gifted, but he had the mindset. Now, obviously, that's a very different example to F1, but having that technical ability, right, which Checo undoubtedly does, because he proved it many a time in this sport. But the thing is with football, it's one ball. Doesn't matter whether you play in the UK or Spain or Antarctica, right? The ball's the ball. If it's a size 5, it's a size 5. Different cars need different approaches, right? And Ricciardo already looks more confident in that AlphaTauri than he almost ever did at McLaren. Obviously, in certain conditions, Ricciardo could deliver pace in a McLaren and do well. Think Australia last year. Think, obviously, Monza, where he won. But isn't Checo exactly the same? In certain tracks, Checo shows pace and performance. Baku, even, again, Mexico qualifying, he was only a 10th and a half of Max in the end, but then Max did mess up his lap. Saudi, certain tracks, Checo can get the performance out of the Red Bull. In certain tracks, Ricciardo could get the performance out of the McLaren, but it was only a very finite number of tracks. And Norris and Verstappen took him to the cleaners, Took him to the cleaners. But there you go. Clanger drive, 64%, Sergio Perez. Banger team. Not going to spend too long on this. AlphaTauri, of course. Of course, the pace, incredible gave Yuki an opportunity for big points as well, which the team didn't squander. Yuki did. And you lot agree, 54% of you, AlphaTauri. 27% Ferrari. That's about as much as they could have hoped for. I mean, obviously, if Lando wasn't starting at the back, he would almost certainly have finished ahead of both Ferraris. But also George Russell started behind the Ferraris, stayed behind the Ferraris in what we know from Lewis is a quick Mercedes. But Lewis is starting to flex his muscles a bit now, you know. He's starting to assert some dominance in that team. 9% of you gave it to Mercedes and 7% McLaren. And then finally, Clanger team, the clangingest team of all. I mean, of course, it's Aston Martin. There's absolutely no debate. Aston Martin, wow. Painful. My video this week will be all about specifically Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin. But my goodness, what an absolute mess. Aston farting out of mic crack, as Mahad said on the stream. Damn. It's Aston Martin's downfall is every bit as impressive as McLaren's upturn. It is like, it's the same. It's like the same, just the other way round. It's brutal. Brutal is a great word for it, Dino. Yeah. Alonso fans, the hope that you had at the start of the year must have well crumbled by now. Yeah, tough. And unsurprisingly, 81% of you went for Aston Martin as well. 10% Alfa Romeo, which, yeah, both in Q3 and then both out the points. Bottas wasn't able to deliver on the potential, which is a big L for them because, again, they're in the battle for 9th and 10th now in the Constructors. And 6% Haas. Yeah, I mean, having a car failure like that for Magnussen's a shocker. And Hülkenberg tyres, you know, he did a great job for as long as he could to hold off Ocon, but those tyres were gone. They were gone. Absolutely thin. Right. Thank you all for voting in the Bangers and Clangers if you did. Again, follow me on Twitter at TommoF1 or subscribe or do both. And like the stream, of course, to this YouTube channel so that you can see the community posts because I will be posting the pre-race Chinwag poll on Wednesday evening for the upcoming Brazilian Grand Prix. Cool. All right. Let's start with Haas because that's the first team that came up in the graphic. I've got no more to say. I was banking on them learning, and you know maybe they've got some learnings that they can dive into from this race and turn up in Sao Paulo. Right, Magnussen's got a pole around Brazil. Hülkenberg's got a pole from back in the day around Brazil as well. That Haas, I expect them to be a bit better around Interlagos, so maybe in the sprint race they can capitalise. I know Magnussen, dropped like a stone, but he still held on for, I think, a point, wasn't it, last year in the sprint? Sprint's an opportunity for Haas, because one lap pace, they're not that bad. I think Hülkenberg, I looked into it, I think Haas has made Q3 7 times this year, I think it is. I tweeted it. I think it's 7 times this year a Haas. Either Hülkenberg or Magnussen has made Q3, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's just, no race pace. No race pace. Chat, who should we go with next? What team? I'll let you dictate, all right, the order in which we go through teams. I'm just going to pick the AT. Nassos, you got in there first. It's AlphaTauri. Okay, let's talk about AlphaTauri. Again, I predicted Ricciardo would do well for a reason on Thursday because he's good around here. He's confident around this track. He's consistently done well around here. He beat Lando here last year in the McLaren. But I did not anticipate. Well, I also, again, in my video last week, I was like, AlphaTauri are the team with the most momentum right now. But this played to AlphaTauri's strengths more than I thought. This definitely played to AlphaTauri's strengths more than I thought. Because Yuki was flying as well. You got to say, in hindsight, using this week to give Tsunoda that engine penalty, could they have done it the week prior if they had maybe anticipated how quick this car would be around Mexico? Easy to say in hindsight, of course, but he was coming from the back and he should have been in good points. Ricciardo, we've already waxed lyrical about him. Great job. Kept it clean. Good moves. Almost got Russell at the end. Actually, we'll get onto that in a minute. Let's talk about Yuki first. Yuki, it's such a good drive. And then he's just got impatient, hasn't he? And he's just cut across Piastri. I mean, it's 100% on Yuki, isn't it? There's no question it's on Yuki. And he got lucky. You know, him and Piastri had their little touch the lap prior. And then he just turns into him. Look, Yuki had a great drive up to that point. And I think that's important to remember. Okay, yes, he had a clanger in the end because he ended up with no points, and this was a huge potential points haul for AlphaTauri constructors wise. Now, you know, he had a very good race up to that point, but it's these instances that will end up defining your career, your legacy, how you're perceived in F1. And unfortunately, this great drive from Yuki will be overshadowed when this race is looked back. Rightly so, really, because at the end of the day, if you can't deliver it, if you can't deliver the points, then you can't deliver the points. It doesn't matter how good your drive has been. And yeah, a bit impatient with Oscar. And it's a fair play to Oscar. They asked him afterwards, like, what did you make of it? And he didn't like. Oscar's not one to throw drivers under the bus, is he? He's very measured. But yeah, that was for sure on Yuki. He kind of lost his head a bit, didn't he? Which is such a shame. Such a shame. It would have been really interesting to see if Yuki would have. Actually, yeah. Let's do another little poll. Actually, you know what? Fancy another little poll. Cheeky little poll, right? Let's do. If Tsunoda had made the move cleanly on Piastri, would he have caught and passed Ricciardo? Because he did seem to maybe be on a bit more pace. And this is where it's, you know, if for example, let's just play out an alternative scenario where he does pass Piastri and he does have a bit more pace than Ricciardo, because he might have, though most of you don't seem to think so. But let's just say he potentially did, because I think he maybe did. And then swap them around like McLaren did, which then allowed Norris to catch and overtake Russell. Could AlphaTauri have done the same and maybe even got past Russell? Maybe with Tsunoda, given how close Ricciardo was at the end. Maybe. We'll never know. But at the end of the day, Yuki didn't give us the opportunity to see because he crashed into Oscar, because he was impatient, and it's really frustrating. As a Yuki fan, that's the measure. You're at the top tier, and you know, he needs to look back at that and learn from it and understand what he could have done differently, what he should have done differently. Yeah, not good. Not good. I mean, 75% if you don't think he would have got caught and passed Ricciardo, which, yeah, I mean, that's fair. Again, I think, you know, he definitely didn't have enough of a delta to pass Ricciardo on pace, because you need a big delta around Mexico to pass on pace. Would the team have swapped him round? I don't know. If they thought they had a chance, but then Ricciardo reeled Russell in anyway, so they probably wouldn't have swapped them. If Ricciardo was just, you know, losing pace to Russell, then maybe, but Ricciardo was reeling him in at the end, because eventually the mediums, at least in George's hands, started to fall off. Not in Lewis's hands. Not at all. So yeah, 75% if you think no. And yeah, I probably agree. All in all, I probably agree. But now let's talk about the race direction. And I want to show you, I'll show you my reaction from the from the last lap, right? Yesterday, covering the race. It was the stinkiest stinker. Let's go back on the replay. Where is it? I just want to find the... Right, here we go. We do some reaction content to my own content. So it's not... we're not actually stealing views from anyone, right? This is promoting the channel, okay? Let's have a look. Right, let me get desktop audio on. I don't want this to be too loud. I don't want to blow your eardrums off again. All right, I'm sorry everyone for last time. Right, I'm very sorry. There's Mad and Peter. Big up. Right, need to make this a bit bigger. Let's get this nicely cropped in the pink. There's me on the end. Hello, there I am. There's little me. Hello. Nice little graphics, nice little studio. Right, let's get the Mexico Grand Prix last lap live. Don't forget to check it out. Like and subscribe. Link to the channel is in the description down below if you're here on YouTube. If you're not here on YouTube, then you must be here on audio only. Let's play it. Let's run it. Let's turn it up a bit.
Come on.
Is he close enough? Ooh.
He's kind of.
So it's reeling him in.
He might have to shake and bait. He's a second DRS zone, you know.
Reeling him in.
Might be one of them. Send him defensive. Yes.
Here we go.
There it is. That's all he needed to do.
Crescendo.
Danny Ricks.
Here we go.
For the shoulder.
Right,
Go on.
do what Norris did to you, son. Oh, he's so close.
Here we go.
Great run.
We're going to see the move.
You fucking dickheads!
Apologies for the language.
Oh my god!
Well, so yeah, that was our reaction live to it, and I'm sure most of you were the same. Surely, right? Oh, wrong overlay. Surely most of you were the same, because that was unforgivable. Max wasn't even. He was like. He'd only just got into the final sector. Like, I understand, right? You want to show the winner crossing the finish line. But come on. Really? Like, really? And the race direction has been poor. Like, these last few races, it has stunk. Yeah, I don't know. He didn't get the move done in the end. I'm kind of glad, because if he had got... It would have been even... If Ricciardo had got the move done, whoa, heads are rolling, man. That would have been an absolute catastrophe. Fortunately for George, unfortunately for... Yeah. Oh, yeah, and it's not Sky, by the way. It's the world feed. Everyone's getting the same feed. Those cameras, obviously, the different broadcasters, DAZN, Sky, whatever, they have their own commentators, their own graphics, but the actual feed is the world feed that goes out to everyone, and it's the world feed that was the issue in this instance. Just to clarify, but yeah, absolute stinker, but an absolute great day for AlphaTauri. Should have been a better day, but it's still great, and they jump up to P8 in the constructors, which is huge. Right, next team, chat. Who should we talk? Who should we talk about next? The cameras are F1, the voices are Sky. Exactly, Seven Kings. Exactly. Williams, all right. Aleph, Williams. Williams was the first team I saw pop up. So, yeah. Feels like a missed opportunity. I started with Sargeant. He recovered he was P12, wasn't he, on track? When the team told him to pull in, he had a fuel pump failure of some kind. Couldn't even take the flag, which he was gutted about, understandably. Still behind Alex, but 2 clean weekends in a row. This is good. It's not amazing. He's not close enough to Alex still, but it's better. He's not writing the car off. He's slowly getting there. Yeah, I think P12 was on for Logan. Obviously, there's a lot of retirement, so that helped him out for sure. But why was Logan mad? Well, yeah, but adaptive. Bear in mind, he's just driven an entire, 70... He's done 70 of 71 laps to come to P12, and then you're being told to box before taking the flag. Like that of course he's going to be upset about that. I get it, right? But yeah, all in all right from Logan. Still not great, but all right. But Alex Albon, man, like, obviously practice, he was cooking, qualifying. He felt he was hard done by with that track limit to get into Q3. He thinks his rear right was still in. I've not seen, I don't think those images are public. So he said the FIA showed him an image and he was like, I'm still in. But Who knows? Who knows? Fuel pump issue for Sargeant. And yeah, look, I think all things considered, P9 is if I look at, hang on, let me look at the race results. I've got to get rid of all these overlays to get to the race results. Back we go, here we go. So, could Albon have finished ahead? If it had qualified ahead of Piastri, would have finished ahead of Piastri? Maybe. Ricciardo, maybe. Russell, probably not. I think all in all, Alex probably close to maximised in the end, even though qualifying didn't go as well as it was looking at one stage. So, yeah, all in all, I think he did a pretty good job. You'd take P9. Alex started on the hards, didn't he? He was one of the few to start on the hards. So he had a little bit of a train. He was having a little bit of battle with Joe as well, wasn't he? But yeah, it's hard to really rate Alex's race. Just it was good. It was good. And look, P9, can't argue with that really, man. But again, a lot of retirement. Sonoda's finishing ahead of him if he doesn't shunt it. Perez is finishing ahead of him if he doesn't shunt it. I would have said Aston Martin, but I can't say that anymore because they've fallen off so badly. But yeah, well in Alex, we take those. Next team chat. Who are we taking next? We've done Williams, we've done Haas, we've done AlphaTauri, Aston Martin. Dorian, couldn't put it better myself. Now, awful test session. Rest of this year, write it off. Just test the car. Find out what you don't understand. Please, I beg you, okay? Because the rumour mill's been swirling. The rumour mill is swirling. The rumours have been full of Sergio Perez as of recent, haven't they? But yeah. Albert Fabrega's been stirring the old pot. Let's I'm gonna go screen share because Albert tweeted this 12 minutes ago. 12 minutes ago. Screen share. Albert Fabrega. Let's get this nicely cropped for YouTube viewership. So Albert yesterday was somewhat notioning around a big bit of news. A big bit of news that he'd been told, a rumour that he was told yesterday that he doesn't want to believe or refuses to believe. Now, obviously, much of the conversation around this and the alignment with an absolutely terrible weekend for Aston Martin is Fernando Alonso. Is there any meaning behind this that potentially there's an issue with Fernando? Maybe he's on his way out. I hope it remains a rumour and not news. That's what Albert's saying. Again, check out Albert on Twitter if you haven't already. What was it that he tweeted? So he tweeted this yesterday. I don't want to believe the rumour that they have told me now in the paddock, no. That's what he tweeted yesterday. But then also, yeah, Will Buxton seems like Ricciardo is going to Red Bull. So yeah, Will's also been stirring the pot. So you've got Will Buxton and you've got Albert Fabrega, just very cryptic with their nice header, Will, by the way, nice. Very, very cryptic. Cryptic? Sound like Jonathan Ross. I mean, he did this one first. You can't see it. It's this one. Is that John Lennon winking? It looked like Daniel Evolved this weekend. Sergio Perez suffered home heartbreak. I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, right, it's peak for Aston Martin. Alonso has a multi-year contract. So we know he's got a contract for next season. Do I see, obviously it's worth Fernando sticking around to see what if they can have another equivalent jump up like they did at the start of this year, the start of next year. I know it's unlikely. But yeah, it's things aren't looking good. There's just brand new factory. There's so much to be excited about around this team, and it's just yikes. But I don't know. Them to Alonso retire rumours. I don't think that's it. Perez, Ricardo rumours feel a lot more valid to me because I still think that's going to happen. But I couldn't see. Alonso to Red Bull would be... But then Albert Fabrega wouldn't be tweeting about it like in a really kind of sad way. He'd be like gassed, surely, right? Just 1 year, Fernando Verstappen in the same car. Let him have it. You know what I mean? Let him have it. But we'll see. Time will tell. We might be getting a random stream out of nowhere, jumping on some news at some point. Did I see what Spanners tweeted? No, I didn't, David. I'll have a look. I'll have a look once we're done, because I think it might be related to something I saw someone else mention in the... Yeah, whatever. Cool. Aston Martin, nothing more to say. I'm just going to go to Alpine as well, because... Like, what? Okay, Ocon got a point. Woo. He was stuck behind Hulkenberg for ages. Ocon's radio, like, bruv's got... He's got to hold that. He's got to hold that. Ocon's got to hold that L. I'm sorry, right? You know I like you, Esteban, but you got to hold that L. That little bit of radio was just, oh, tell Haas to be ready because I'm coming. Elbows out. Like, come on. Just do that if you're going to pull off the move when you know you've got full battery and Hulkenberg's had a terrible exit out at the end of the final corner. Haas got hands. That was pretty cringe. Afterwards, he was trying to justify it, but he still kind of, come on, Esteban. Come on. You've not got that car to say those things, all right? You've not got that. You've not got the dog, all right? You've not got... Yeah, I'm sending it in 15 laps time, exactly. But yeah, all in all, Gasly 11, Ocon 10. Gasly was having a right drive. I think he got a bit unlucky with the... I feel like because Gasly was running ahead of Ocon. Ocon was running really low, and I think Gasly must have just got unlucky, right? But to be honest, we didn't really see him because they weren't doing any... Well, not much in the way of overtaking, so it wasn't particularly intrigue-worthy. Alfa Romeo. This was such an opportunity for them. Surely. Both cars in Q3. Even Bottas and Joe were almost exactly equal, even though in Q3, Joe had 1 lap, Bottas had 2. But Bottas was so much quicker than Joe in practice and was quicker than Joe in Q1, Q2 as well. So, I don't know. I feel like Bottas had the pace, but kind of dropped the opportunity himself, which is a bit of a stinker. It's getting a bit cool in here. I bought a... you know, I've complained in the past about how cold it gets in this room. I bought myself a little heater, and I'm going to turn it on. And I want you to let me know if you can hear it in the background. So, can you hear? Is that an annoying noise in the background that you can hear? Is it? Yes, no, loud, no, nah, yes, nothing, no, can hear, very This does not help me. Okay, I'm gonna turn it off. I'm not cold enough to justify putting it on. If it is, there we go. It's off. But it keeps me nice and toasty. No more. Do you remember last year? It was 7 degrees in this room when it was the peak of winter. 7. That's fine. It's all right. I don't mind. I'll just do a bit. I'm standing up, by the way. I always stand up for these streams, right? I'm standing. Standing. I'm not flexible enough for you to see my legs. Anyway, sounds like my PC. It is quite loud, but it is very toasty. It is very nice and toasty. Alfa Romeo, opportunity missed. And, Bottas on Stroll. Valtteri, what are you doing? He got 5-second penalty, didn't he? No, I think some. If you've got headphones, you probably could have heard it, but if not, then yeah, that was a stinker from Valtteri. That move, that was so clumsy. But yeah, listen, not a good day for Alfa Romeo. All right, Ferrari were pretty surprised by their pace on Saturday and did as much as they could on Sunday. Charles Leclerc, front wing end plate missing, gapping Carlos Sainz, by the way. Gapping Carlos Sainz. Now, I've seen a lot of Leclerc slander, right? People using this pole record against him. Charles is a serious driver. We saw that at the start of last year, him going toe-to-toe with Max. We saw it in 2019 when he had a maybe not quite legal Ferrari. But he still took it and delivered the poles and delivered the races and delivered the performances. Come on. Charles is a serious driver. Once Ferrari pull their finger out, if Ferrari pull their finger out, you know he'll go toe-to-toe with Max. Don't get it twisted. Cars wasn't really pushing because there was no reason. I mean, I don't know. Leclerc penalty. Well, yeah, Leclerc was really weird. Yeah, this was odd. So once again, the FIA making themselves centre of attention by obviously Leclerc had his loose front wing end plate, right? And I was concerned. Meatball flag incoming, right? Gunter Steiner's like, well, why were we not given this time when Magnussen had his 3 meatball flags in 3 races, whatever it was last year? It fell off. VSC got rid of it. Crack on, right? He wasn't given a meatball flag, but then after the race, the stewards called Charles because dangerous car. And I'm like, you chose not to give him the flag that's literally designed to bring in a car that you don't think is, because other than that, Charles' car was fine. So Leclerc's fine. He's not got a penalty or anything. He's just stupid. What's the point? Just wasting everyone's time. Like, you didn't use the flag. The thing fell off. It VSC'd. It carried on. Why are they putting him in? Mad. Thank you, Adrian, for the 5 Aussie. Did you see that Checo fan start fighting Charles Leclerc fans? P.S. Giuliano says hello. Hello, Giuliano. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you taking the time. I did see some fan. Whatever. Checo fan, whoever it is, someone trying to fight some Ferrari fans or whatever. Just nonsense behaviour, kick them out, ban them for life, move on. You're always going to get knobheads, unfortunately. But hopefully they were swiftly dealt with by security. Hooligans, you're going to get them anywhere. That's the problem. But yeah, Ferrari, pretty good. They can be happy with that. I think Fred Vasseur was pretty satisfied, all things considered. Charles Leclerc was getting a few boos, which is a bit unfair because it definitely wasn't on him, the crash. But people boo. Again, it's not a big deal. It's more why are people booing? Like, people booing Charles because they think he took out Perez is very different to people maybe booing a driver because they have a fundamental dislike of them. You know what I mean? Like, the reason for a boo, but we don't know. When people boo, they boo for their own reasons. You can have a crowd of people and they're all booing for slightly different reasons. Max didn't get overly booed, no, which was cool. Actually, I forgot to mention this at the very start of the stream, by the way. Let's go back to the graphic. If you're watching, sorry audio only people, but is this not, well, first of all, is this Checo's pose? Like, when Checo won in Sakir, he did one of them, didn't he? Now, obviously, no one owns that. But Max doesn't usually do this, does he? Now, yeah, obviously, Jude Bellingham has taken this But even like when Jude does it, his hands are a bit different to Max's hands. When Max got out of that car and did that, I immediately thought of Perez. I got to be honest, right? I know he thinks he's Bellingham, right? But I think he nicked Checo's celebration. Because when have we seen Max do this before? Maybe I'm wrong. But I think he nicked Checo's celebration, you know? I think he did. I think that's Max mind games once again. Okay, McLaren. What could have been for Norris? Where do we think, actually? All right, let's do a quick poll. If Lando had qualified in, let's say, the top 5, where do you think he would have finished on pace? Just want to get some 1, 2, 3, 4 or lower. It's very difficult to really analyse, because obviously that McLaren car is a quick car now, right? That McLaren car is a fast car. Yet Piastri was only able to take it from P7 to P8. Now, he's a rookie. He's still, tyres were a big part of this race. I think why Piastri struggled was managing engine temps, managing brake temps, managing tyres. That's the stuff that Lando said himself post-race, he's only really got on top of that stuff recently. He feels like, anyway. So I think that's why, Piastri actually went backwards. Well, Lando was able to do almost 2 recovery drives and through to 5th. Which again speaks volumes for the quality of Lando Norris, 100%. Where do you think he would have finished without the mess up on Saturday? 48% of you think P2, 46% of you think P3. So pretty much everyone is either second or third. And I think him and Lewis were the next quickest cars. Obviously, we never got to see Perez's pace, but the next quickest cars. Clear of the Ferraris for sure. I mean, it wasn't even close between Leclerc and Hamilton in the end. It was 8 seconds or something. Oscar had a bit of damage in the end. Yeah, true. But honestly, from the Sonoda, he had a couple of touches with Yuki, didn't he? Don't know how much damage, potentially. But either way, Lando was way quicker than Oscar yesterday. And it's important to remember, Oscar's got that raw ability and talent and pace, and we've seen that already. But Lando is way closer to the finished article than Oscar is. I've got something in my throat. Most of you think P2, P3. I'd probably say... Lewis was on a mission, wasn't he? It would have been so close between them two. It really would have been. I'd probably still say Lewis. Maybe. Oh, I don't know, though. That's tough. Well, you're split as well, so I don't know. But good day all in all for McLaren. You can take that. And move. Increase their gap to Aston in the Constructors. And again, he's only 14 points behind Sainz and Alonso. And he's almost certainly going to catch Alonso. Maybe Sainz. Another poll, actually. Will Lando pass Sainz for P4 by a season end? Yes or no? Will Lando, and again, let me show you the driver standings. Yep. So Lando's on 169, Sainz and Alonso are on 183, 14 points. Will Lando close that gap to Sainz and pass him? Obviously, Lando needs to average in 3 weekends. He needs to average, a 5-point advantage over Sainz, which is, at least more than 2 positions, unless Lando's winning a race, of course. Or, obviously, P2 to P3 is a 3-point difference. So, it's a big ask, but the momentum looks good. 60% of you think yes, 40% of you think no. Going to be tight. Thank you, Mandler, for the 35 ZAR. With the pace of the McLarens, Mercs and Ferraris, the pace deficit between Perez and Verstappen will lose Red Bull constructors in the future. #Springboks. Well done, South Africa. I'm not a rugby fan, but obviously I know who the Springboks are. And what happened? Congratulations. I didn't watch the game because I don't watch rugby. But yeah, look, Mandler, it's a good point. It's a good point because you can argue, again, having a 1-2, a clear 1-2 will help. But when it's so clear that it's like half a second, 6/10, the kind of gap we're seeing between Max and Sergio, the kind of gap we're seeing between Fernando and Lance, that's too much. I think there's a sweet spot. The sweet spot's like 2 to 3/10 qualifying pace. And I think more often than not, Valtteri was in that sweet spot relative to Lewis. You know, qualifying, Valtteri would out-qualify Lewis 30% of the time. I crunched the numbers. Over their 5 seasons, it's about 30% of the time, which is like basically every other race. Like a third of the time. Less than a third, a bit. So, yeah, I think it's a good point, Mandler. And I think, you know, that's going to be... But also, I think the ability of a team to manage the relationship is more important than that, I would actually say as well. I think a team that really owns their drivers will do a better job at managing a really close battle than a team that doesn't manage their drivers and it's a bit of a bigger gap because then you build up resentment and then there'll be the odd occasion where the slower guy's faster and they won't give concessions and whatever. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. It's the age-old debate. It's always been part of this sport, teammate battles, and that's the first rule, isn't it, to beat your teammate? But yeah, time will tell. Time will tell whether McLaren have got this right with their little battle because Piastri's good, but he's not quite Lando. He's not quite Lando. 60% of you think Lando will pass science for P4 by the end of the season. Damn. We'll see. We'll see. The momentum's good. Mercedes, yeah, I mean, like, Lewis is just coming into his own. Like, I know some people don't like Lewis Hamilton, right? Everyone's entitled to their opinion on any driver, right? Not for whatever reason, but of course. But I think that, you know, Lewis is still got it. Come on. Like, I've seen plenty of people try and assert that Lewis has somehow fallen off. Come on. Lewis is still, you give him the car and he will fight Max Verstappen for a title. No question. His ability is 100% there, right? And yes, he's guilty of moaning a lot. He's guilty of being a bit of a hypocrite. They're all guilty of being a hypocrite, by the way. Every single F1 driver is. They will all complain about them getting a penalty and then try and get someone else the same penalty. Like, come on. It's just part of the game. All sports people do it. You play to your outs. You try and bend the rules in your favour where you can. And look, Lewis has been really strong in this Mercedes. And it's a good sign for Mercedes fans, I think, because it's showing that he is... And you know, that car's going to change in a big way next year. But I like to think that this is a product of maybe the team listening to him a bit more. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But he is, you know, he's been around the block. He knows what he's doing, Lewis. He's been around for a long time. He's been in a lot of good cars. He's been in a lot of, you know, not so good cars. Those McLarens at times were absolute arse. Still found a way to win most seasons as well. Well, all of them apart from last year and this year at this stage. Interlagos, gotta say. What was it that Red Bull messed up last year at Interlagos, chat? What exactly was it? Because obviously Mercedes were quick around Sao Paulo, but Red Bull was it their ride heights? I think it was the ride heights, wasn't it? Like specifically in the setup. I know it was. Is it ride height? I think it was ride heights. Yeah, ride height setup. And obviously Singapore, Red Bull messed up their setup as well. Maybe there's something inherent around Interlagos that Red Bull could struggle with. And yeah, for sure, I think Sao Paulo's Lewis's best chance at winning this year, for sure. Especially the momentum he seems to be carrying now. He's got that new floor on that he seems very happy with. I think there's a big chance for a Lewis win this weekend relative to any other weekend. It's still, you know, odds on Max, of course, right? But yeah, I think it's looking good for Lewis. George is strange, isn't it? It's really strange how just the momentum seems to have moved away from George Russell. Yeah, and obviously they hit each other at turn 2, didn't they, as well? Forgot about that, actually. Yeah, it's odd. It's very odd. George came back from the summer break really strong, had some good performances, and it just seems to be moving away from him now. Is it just Lewis? Maybe Lewis is just getting more comfortable in this car, and he's making steps forward, and George is standing still. It's hard to know, isn't it? Is George stepping backwards, or is Lewis stepping forward? I think it's probably more Lewis stepping forwards. And then obviously seeing that gap open up is going to then make George feel more anxious about getting performance out of the car and blah, 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 right? But yeah, Corey, I think tyres, Lewis, that experience, the kind of experience that Lewis has, that Fernando has, that, even, Verstappen is one of the most experienced drivers in F1. I saw a stat. Well, I didn't see it. I heard someone say it on one of I think it was the F1 podcast. I think it was F1 Nation or something. That like Lance Stroll has like the 49th most starts in F1 history or something. Does that ring a bell with anyone? Because I'm sure that was the thing. Yeah, Norris over Piastri as well. Yeah. Again, tyre management is such a big part of modern F1 that if you've not got it on lock, then you're going to be struggling. But yeah, I think it still needs a big step up to catch up to Max, of course, but give him the car and he can. Yeah, some of you heard that as well. Okay, that's good. I didn't just make that up. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lance Stroll's first year was in 2017, and then obviously he's done every year. He's done every season since 2017. Hasn't missed. Well, he missed a race after Mugello crashed, didn't he? But he's done every season pretty much entirely. So, yeah, look. It's kind of a good thing, to be honest, because I think that Lewis, I've said this before, them two scrapping is a problem. If Lewis can just dunk pace on Russell, then that establishes the 1-2. And George just becomes a default number 2. And then that means that there's, they're probably less likely to trip over each other, and maybe that helps a title fight for Lewis. And that, Mercedes feel that they owe it to Lewis to give him the opportunity for an 8th. He wouldn't be here if he didn't think he could get an 8th. And it means that they don't have necessarily that difficult decision. Like if George is maybe faster than Lewis and they have a title winning car, what do they do then? It's a bit tricky, but Lewis is looking good. Looking very good. Very good indeed. But not quite as good as Max Verstappen in that Red Bull. So yeah, the other rumour, obviously, Perez retirement rumours, Perez leaving, Perez being swapped with Ricciardo. Those rumours will not end until either Checo massively improves his performances relative to Max, or he gets replaced. So I don't see the jump up. Chat, I asked you earlier, you don't see the jump up. I'm sure many of you listening, watching, I don't know where that increase comes from, right? Because again, Max is more comfortable in this chassis that isn't going to fundamentally change next year. It's going to develop. It's not going to fundamentally change. He's fundamentally very happy, content in this car. He's worked out a way of setting it up and getting the most out of it, right? Fundamentally, that's not going to change next year. Also, like, Baku is like round 17 next year because the calendar's moving around next year, isn't it? Baku's going towards the end of the season. So Checo's got a while to wait for his best. Actually, yeah, let's have a look at the 2024. I'll get screen share up. Let's have a look at the 2024 calendar. Actually, you know what? I'll just save this image. Save image to my download. Save it there. Do that. Do this. Sorry to everyone watching, but I will go through the names, the names of the races when they are. Here we go. 2024 F1 calendar. So Bahrain should be all right for Checo. He's all right around Bahrain. Saudi Arabia should be good for Checo. But then Australia is kind of a street track. Japan, no. Shanghai, look, I like that track. It's a good track. Hopefully we actually get it next year. Who knows though? Miami, absolutely not. Even though that's technically a street circuit, but we saw what happened this year. Miami, then Imola, Monaco, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. It's just a bit demoralizing. He's a good talented driver, and just seeing him just get, I don't know, man. It's just painful to watch. But yeah, let's not get it twisted. Max Verstappen is driving out of his skin at the minute, and this was one of his highlight races for me, for this season. Hanoi, what a waste of money that was. What a waste of money the Vietnam Grand Prix circuit was. Built and never used. Terrible. It's like Valencia. I've been there. It's like a basically big part of the Valencia is basically like it's kind of like a homeless area where a lot of people are like gone over and just used old building materials to like build little, like it's a really sad sight to see. This is like, it used to be an F1 track, the epitome of privilege and money and wealth and all that. And it's tough. Cool. All right. I think we are pretty much done. Chat, are there any bits I've missed out on? We've been going for an hour 27. Any particular pieces of information? I'm going to get a little bit more intro, and then we'll go full me main screen. Hello, everyone. What are we saying? Oh, David, yes. Abu Dhabi, right. So, there's rumours knocking about, and again, this is all speculation, rumours, that there is a risk Abu Dhabi might not be going ahead due to the security, obviously the situation in the Middle East at the minute. There's potentially a risk of Abu Dhabi not going ahead, which, I mean, if there's reason enough to be, we saw obviously in Saudi when there were you could see the plumes of smoke from rockets in the background, and yeah, if there's any risk of, if there's any genuine safety risk, obviously the event organisers for Abu Dhabi will be, I'm sure, doing everything they can to avoid that. But that's where F1 needs to kind of step up and make the right decision by the fans, by the drivers who are going to put themselves at that event potentially. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an ever-evolving situation. It's a rumour. You know, remains to be seen. I've not really got too much to say on that because we just don't know. Vegas finale master plan. Well, listen, we'll see. We'll see how good Vegas is. Hopefully, it's a good race. But yeah, I mean, time will tell. Time will tell. Anything else, anyone? Actually, while I ask you, I'll run a quick ad just at the end here, and I'll go grab Minton. He's down. Is he down here? No, he's not down here. He's in the bedroom. I forgot where he was. So I've got me water. Stay hydrated, people. And here's the sausage. Do you want to go on my shoulder, mate? Thank you, Chris from DC. Love your stream. Thank you very much. Only question is, what's your background that got you into F1 content? Well, I've always loved motorsport since I was a kid. First touring cars and rally, and then eventually I found F1. But I'd never, no, my parents, none of my family friends were into it growing up. It's kind of my own thing. And then I used to do football YouTube content because I wanted to learn how to make videos, and I was a West Ham season ticket holder. And then I kind of started to fall out of love with that a bit, to be honest. And football doesn't hit like it used to for me, for a couple of reasons. And then, yeah, I just kind of was like, oh, I'm just going to try this video stuff for my other big sporting passion, which is, by this stage, F1. Full send into F1. I don't really follow too much of rally and touring cars anymore, which is a shame, but I've only got so much time. I still like to keep up to date with the football and that. And yeah, here we are. I was graphic designer and that was my job, but I'd never really done video and I wanted to learn how to make videos. So I was like, you know what, let's try this. Let's try YouTube. I wanted to get a bit more confident talking on camera and like articulating myself, you know. And here we are. Middle of 2019, I started doing F1 stuff, and we are at the end of 2023, and I'm still going. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. But I wouldn't be here without you lot, so thank you all for the support, honestly. It means the world. I do appreciate it. Hit the like, exactly, Chloros. Hit that like. Hit that like. I don't think there's too much more to talk about. It's not on your... I thought there was something on his nose. Thank you all for coming. Again, not too long to wait. New video should be coming maybe tomorrow, although I'm doing something pretty exciting tomorrow, which I've done a few times in the past, and I'm doing it again, and it's a pretty big deal, and it's very cool, and I might be doing it in person. So some of you probably can guess what it is based off of that very loose description. But yeah, I will be putting this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, so if you do want to download this to listen maybe or subscribe. I don't really know how it works because I watch all my podcasts through YouTube, to be honest. And yeah, I will see you on... So yeah, next video, maybe tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. And then pre-race Chinwag for the Brazilian Grand Prix on Thursday. Looking forward to that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Lolly, Kleiner, Laurenus, Genki, James, King, Sean, Carlos, Squibbles, Abdullah, Alif, One Melon, Supragino, Jimbo, Aram, Gamma, Yard Animal, Blair, JM, Clorox, Champ, Anad, Scotty, Carlos, Surf Sauce, Ticket, Scardrone, Vass, Abe, FIFA, Salmon, Mr. Corridor, Beyond the Lizzie, Jay Sutton, David, Jeremy, Laura, G Sweet, à la maison Wedmere. Je suis à la maison Wedmere. That wasn't a very good French. Je suis à la maison Wedmere. I need to work on it. Thank you all. Ring the bell. Subscribe, like. Follow Minton on Instagram at Minton the Miniature. Follow me on Instagram at TomMcCluskey_. Bye everyone. Stay safe, be well, be happy. See you on Thursday.